after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Moving the Goalposts on Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to the Empty the Bench Network on YouTube. Follow us on social media at MTGPETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network across all social media at ETB Network. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and soon TikTok. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart and Liam at Liam C. Wilson. All right, so we are fine. And you can find us on etbpodcast.com. That's where you can find us, and youtube.com/etb network. All right, so just make sure to like and subscribe. A lot going on in the NFL. There's a lot that I want to talk about, but I will say I want justice. I want justice for us Bengals bettors who were betting on them on false pretenses. I'm out of first place in my pick'em pool because I took the Bengals and they hid that injury. This is disgraceful. I don't know what the punishment is going to be, but I'm still angry about this.
No, this is so. I don't understand the people who are angry about this. It's okay. So last year I had a bet on Christian McCaffrey to go over 50 yards and a certain amount of passing yards, and he would have got it easily, but he got injured during the game. So does that mean that I should be upset, or like as upset as the people have been about the Joe Burrow thing? No, players get injured all the time. Anytime you bet, you expect a player could get injured. Burrow's been injured. In the first 2 weeks he was injured of the season. He hasn't been good the whole season. I think the outrage of this is crazy. Like
no. It's not the same thing. Hold on. It's not the same thing at all. He got injured during the game. The Bengals knew he was injured and hid it. That's the difference. You always know it's a possibility that you can get injured. It's different when a team knows a player is injured and hides it. So you're betting on false pretenses. It's completely different.
But he could have got injured on the first play of the game, right? Even if he wasn't injured.
That would be different because you can't predict what's going to happen. It's one thing if something does happen. It's another thing if he already is injured and then the Bengals hide it, which they're required to tell the league about. Like they are required to disclose all injuries to the league. So it's completely different when in the first place, you're essentially being defrauded into betting these games. It's not the same thing if a player gets injured in the middle of a game.
No, I don't think that they did it to say
already injured and the Bengals hide it.
I don't think they did it say, oh, fuck everybody who's betting. We're going to do this. And, I don't think there was.
I'm not saying they did.
Ulterior motive. I think that the ulterior motive was to keep him away from, or to maybe, I don't know what the ulterior motive was, but it hurt them in the long run, right? Obviously, the Bengals, because now he won't play for the rest of the year. But I don't understand. I don't understand that. I think that it's really buyer beware. You know a guy's going to get hurt at some point. I understand you're saying that they kept him. They kept it, but I think players do all the time. There's players who are game time decisions, right? So what if they made him a game time decision and then they say he's out at 8:10? And everyone who bet would have already bet, right?
Well, okay. I think that's a little bit different because beforehand it's a game time decision. because that information is given to you. This is something that they were deliberately hiding. It's completely different. Now, I'm not saying the reason they did it is because they wanted to screw over bettors. Obviously, they wouldn't do that. They have no incentive to. What I'm saying is they probably didn't want to disclose it for whatever reason, most likely because they thought it would give them a disadvantage, whatever it is. But in the process of that, it screwed over the bettors who bet on it. And part of the reason they're required to disclose all of these injuries to the NFL is so is because of gambling. It's a multi-million-dollar industry, and the betting odds makers have to be given as much information as possible so they can accurately make the lines, which they weren't able to do. That they are required, even if the right tackle had a thumb injury, they have to report that to the NFL. That would likely not affect the line at all. This is the starting quarterback. And you're right, he was injured a lot all the year, but this is a different injury. This had to do with his wrist. And the Bengals knew that he was injured and knew that he probably shouldn't have been playing. I'm not mad at them for playing him, but the point that I'm making is they have to disclose all of this information. It's different if something happens in a game. There's nothing you can do about that. But then you're hiding this information from people who are betting on it, basically on false pretenses. That's my point.
But so Florida State didn't cover on Saturday. Should every person of Florida State got their money back?
No, it's completely different. Something happened in the middle of the game. It's completely different. You're right. It's always a possibility that somebody can get injured, but you can't predict what's going to happen beforehand. The point is the Bengals knew that he was injured. It had already happened, and we were not, and it was hidden from us. That's the point that I'm making. It's it's not the same thing at all. It's different when something happens in the middle of a game, as opposed to it didn't happen. It's almost like insider trading. It's a similar type of concept, like insider
I understand,
trading.
But yeah, I honestly think that this probably goes on a lot more, and it just doesn't get noticed because of
fair enough.
Yeah,
you're probably right. You're probably right. And very often, I don't think it matters that much because most players probably don't affect lines very much.
Well, and nobody would have known. Also, nobody would have known if there wasn't the video. If there wasn't the video of him with the thing on his hand, also no one would have known that.
That's certainly. Well, he also got hurt in the middle of the game. I mean, first of all, just besides all this, Joe Burrow never should have been playing. He was hurt all year. He never should have been playing. I mean, I thought that the whole thing was ridiculous. You're right. It probably does. Although in this case, it is a lot more impactful because it's a starting quarterback. I mean, that's always going to have a pretty big impact on the lines.
Yeah. I agree with that part.
But yeah, I'm just absolutely pissed about this. I don't know. I mean, I think DraftKings is like giving people their money back, but I don't know how many. I don't know how many of them are doing that. I mean, moving on to the Jets and the Jets. So the Jets and Giants. The Jets got killed by the Bills. I told everybody this was going to happen. Last week you said the Jets were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Will you admit that I was right?
Yeah, I would admit that. I would admit that you are right, kind of. I think that I do think that the coaching is also the bigger problem than the quarterback play. But also, I don't. So the way that the Jets are handling everything is stupid, which they did this last year as well, but not now. So their whole attitude was that they were going to stick with Zach Wilson for the whole season. They've been so stubborn on Zach Wilson, and now they haven't even made him the backup. They made him the third string, which they did the exact same thing last year. So nothing they do makes sense. But another thing that I wanted to point out was that the Jets had lost the game for a while. First of all, they only scored a touchdown because they had a fake punt go right. Otherwise, they wouldn't have scored a touchdown at all. They didn't really put together a long drive. But they had a play where it was third down. It was second down in the second half. It was 16-6, and or it was 23-6. And they run a short pass to Stephon Diggs. Diggs catches it, so he gets immediately wrapped up, and it's going to be 3rd and 5. Except that Sauce Gardner picks him up and throws him to the ground. So it's a 15-yard penalty, and now it's a 1st down. And then there was another play where the Bills ran the ball. It was going to be 3rd down, and Michael Clemens threw the offensive lineman onto the ground and gave them 15 yards. They take stupid penalties every game, and that's completely on the coaching. They've done nothing to wrap up stupid penalties. They take stupid penalties.
Absolutely.
I mean, people forget that if the Jets had lost that game to the Giants, Michael Clemens took one of the worst penalties you could take, which was the Giants were about to punt from their own end zone on 4th and 4, and he jumped off sides. They don't do anything to clean that up.
Yeah, the team is not buttoned up at all. It absolutely has a lot to do with the coaching. It has to. I mean, ultimately, it comes back to the coaching. And I think the worst thing that could have happened for the Jets was the fact that they were so. I think the worst thing that happened to us was that we beat the Bills. I feel like that was in the long run, even though it felt amazing in the moment, I feel like it was borrowing happiness from the rest of the season. It was the worst thing that could have happened to us in the long run because it made them whistle past the graveyard with Zach Wilson. I mean, winning that game in such a dramatic fashion was able to sugarcoat how bad Wilson really was. And it was easy to kind of forget about it because we won that game. And that because of that, the Jets didn't make any changes. That was the worst thing that could have happened. I mean, it would have been better if Zach Wilson was just awful right away. That would have been so much better because at least then maybe we would have made some changes. But instead, they just pretended like this wasn't going to happen, and we all knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, so the option to me, there is only one option, which is they need to say that Zach Wilson, they need to wish him luck somewhere else and get rid of him because he's not going to come back now again after being put down 3rd string again. If Rodgers comes back next year, say he were to play the year after, they would have to give him a contract, and B, he's not going to come back again after being 3rd stringed. And and it would be absolutely insane to have him as the backup next season as well. So I think I would just even cut him now, honestly.
You might as well because they're putting Tim Boyle in. Tim Boyle. Like
right. Well, you mentioned the Giants. Zach Wilson's been outthrown in touchdown passes by Tommy DeVito. And Zach Wilson started every game except for the first game. And the first game he played 90% of the game.
Yeah.
He's thrown less touchdowns than Tommy DeVito.
And the Giants should have beaten the Jets if not for that missed field goal by Graham Gano.
Yeah. And the way that DeVito has played, the Cowboys kind of gave him touchdowns, but like the way he played against Washington is a big indictment on Brian Dable too. They didn't even let him throw the ball in that Jet game. I mean, he's not completely he's not throwing an interception every time he touches the ball. Then he should have just been let to throw. So incompetent coaching for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, the Jets are, my biggest problem, I would say, is the fact that the Jets didn't make any moves. The fact that they could have gotten a Carson Wentz or a Gardner Minshew or a serviceable quarterback after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. They could have had a different backup. I mean, they had Zach Wilson as their backup, knowing that Aaron Rodgers being a 40-year-old quarterback, not the most unpredictable thing in the world that a 40-year-old quarterback is going to get injured. And that was the preparation they had, knowing what Zach Wilson is. I mean, we know what Zach Wilson is.
Yeah,
I mean, he showed us
that was the biggest mistake.
That was just being completely unprepared. Now, Jet fans, I think most Jet fans at the time were just excited about Rodgers and weren't really thinking about the possibilities of what could go wrong. But you got to know that that's a possibility. Even if like Rodgers wasn't going to be out for the whole year and he was going to be out for 1 or 2 games or something. Even then, you don't want to have Zach Wilson as your quarterback.
Yeah. And Jet fans aren't the ones making the decision either. So Jet fans should be happy with what they want. The people in the back need to keep them. And remember, he was out a couple years ago with a toe injury. Like it wasn't unfathomable. It wasn't unfathomable to think that he would miss the season, but it certainly was probably in the realm of possibility that he wouldn't play all 17 games.
I mean, I would argue it was probably most likely that he wouldn't play all 17 games.
Yeah.
So it's just I mean, right now it's a disaster for both New York teams. I think the biggest problem though is that I don't. The biggest problem with the Jets is that like I think we all thought we had a chance a week ago. A week ago, it seemed.
Yeah, but
A
they
week
have
ago,
a
it seemed
chance.
like
They've had a chance. The thing is that would infuriate me if I was a Jet fan is that they're just going to completely, unless they win the Super Bowl next season, they're going to completely waste this defense, which is infuriating if you're a Jet fan.
yeah. I mean, you need your defense can't just bail you out every time. I mean, you need to have an offense too.
But yeah, but I think that also the penalties have to stop. Procedure penalties they take, personal fouls they take. I mean, holdings they take a million times. You know, they're as undisciplined a team as you could be.
Yeah, it's just and that all comes back down to coaching.
Yeah,
that all comes, and not to mention a lot of it is like special teams too. Sometimes, I mean, special teams kills them.
Yeah, well, to talk about the defense, the first play of the game, Gibson fumbled the ball, and the defense is so good that they didn't even give up a touchdown. They gave up negative yards on that drive.
Yeah.
So, and the Bills started like the 20. So, the defense it has to be infuriating. And the other thing that I think they also risk is that when the defense plays this good and the offense plays as bad, and there's not like a lot of accountability, I feel like Saleh also runs a risk of losing the room as well.
Yeah, or maybe he's already lost the room. I don't know.
Or maybe he's already lost.
So I want to get into some of our picks for next week. I'll let you go first. Rams at Cardinals.
Yeah, I actually think the Cardinals have been a different team since Kyler Murray came back. They won a game and they should have won at Houston, or they had a chance to win at Houston. And the Rams also got kind of lucky to beat the Seahawks. They're not a good team in my opinion. And so I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, no, this is like the 2021. These are like the two best teams in the NFC in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jags at Texans. I like this one too.
Yeah, I like the Jaguars.
I disagree.
No, the Texans are kind of the Texans. Like I said, the Texans should have lost to the Cardinals. I know, but the Texans should have lost to the Cardinals, and the Jaguars are a really good team. They just had a bad game against.
The Texans have been good too. The Texans have been good too.
Yeah, but they're really young, and I like the Jags in this game.
All right.
I think the Jags have more experience.
My problem with the Jags is I agree that the Jaguars are a good team, but I don't know. Sometimes they just lay an egg.
Yeah,
occasionally they just have really bad games. All right, so Ravens and Chargers. We're both picking this.
Yeah, I'm on the Ravens.
I totally disagree. I hate how much
last week you said that they were the best. That they were the best 4-5 team you've ever seen in your life, and then they gave up 300 yards to Jordan Love. And the Ravens.
Well, first of all, they are the best. They were the best 4-5 team I've ever seen.
Okay, I think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. So
no, they're not the best team in the NFL. They're up there. I would say they're top 5.
They have the ones right now. They have the 1 seed in the AFC.
Okay, but I mean, I still don't think they're the best team in the. Well, I think they're the best team in the AFC. Okay, I'll give you. No, the second best team in the AFC. I would give you.
So yeah, I'm gonna take them, and also the Chargers have no home field advantage. So.
Well, yeah, LA is not known for having the best fans, but no, I'm going with the Chargers on this because. For a few reasons. First of all, I think this is a bounce back game for the Chargers after losing to Jordan Love. But also, most of these games that the Chargers are losing, other than against the Chiefs, they're all close. I mean, when the Chargers play good teams, they don't beat them, but they keep it within 3.5 almost all the time. And they're at home and they're getting 3.5 points just because they're badly coached and their defense is well below average. They can still score a lot of points and be competitive against good teams, which they've shown to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I mean, they have a bad defense and they have a bad coach. The team stinks.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think they stink. I think that they lose a lot, which matters, but most of their losses have been against really good teams, and they were competitive against those teams. I'm not saying they're going to win outright. I'm not saying they are. I'm just picking them to cover. That's it. I'm only picking them to cover 3.5.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so Steelers at Bengals plus 1.5. I love the Steelers. The Bengals. Jake Browning is starting for the Bengals. I feel like this is a little easy.
Yeah, I agree.
The Steelers have been I think the Steelers have been pretty decent.
The only thing that and the Steelers just fired their offensive coordinator. They might get a bump. The only thing that does worry me is the Steelers' offense is horrible. But
it is. But like I said, they fired Matt Canada. So
yeah,
and everybody hates Matt Canada.
Correct.
All right. So last one, Bills at Eagles. I really like the Bills here, plus 3.5. You think I'm crazy? Everybody thinks I'm crazy. That makes me even more confident. When the public is so on one side, you take the other. Okay, that is how it usually works. I'm not. Look, the Eagles are a very good team. They're coming off a very emotional win, and the Bills. It's true that the thing with the Bills is that they play down to their competition. They make a lot of mistakes, but they've shown that they're actually pretty competitive against good teams. That's undeniable. And the Bills have the talent to compete with the Eagles. The problem is they just make I'm not saying they're going to win outright. I just think they can cover this spread and keep it close. And the Eagles, I mean, they're not a team that blows everybody out. I think that the Bills could easily keep this close. I mean, like keeping it within 3.5. I think the Bills absolutely can do that.
I don't know. I like the Eagles at home against a Bills team I don't think is very good. I think is kind of divided. I don't think beating the Jets did anything that shows me anything the way the Jets have played.
I completely agree. I don't think it does either. I don't care that they beat the Jets, but it's just that I think they're still a team with a lot of potential. They still have a lot of talent. They just make a lot of mistakes. That's the problem. But that doesn't mean that they can't compete against good teams because they've been good against every good team that they've played. They're bad against bad teams. That's their problem. They can't stay consistent against bad teams. That's the Bills' problem. So it's college football rivalry week coming up. I do want to talk a little bit about Colorado. I am not a Deion Sanders hater. Not a Deion Sanders hater. I'm kind of indifferent to him. I understand he's a big celebrity, but as a head coach, I don't know much about him yet. I will say he made Colorado relevant, but that's probably more because of his celebrity status and not necessarily his ability as a head coach, although it's a little bit of that too, probably. But I will say, for a team like Colorado, which is now so bad, what's their record now? Their record is
4-7.
4-7. Okay. Colorado is
3-0. They were 3-0.
Yeah, and they were 3-0. The fact that he was taking these victory laps when they beat some of the stinkiest teams. I mean, they beat TCU and he's doing this victory lap and
no, to be fair, the first thing I would say about that is, to be fair to that, at the time of that game, Colorado was coming off a 2-10 season and TCU was coming off being in the national championship game, to be fair. The other thing I will say is you can't ever judge, even in this environment of transfers, you can't really judge a college coach on his first year because he's coming in with a roster and pick. I think Colorado, this is going to be a guess because their roster is going to change year to year, but I think they're going to be very good at points because he's going to bring in guys. There's no question he's going to bring in guys who want to play for him, especially at that game, even the game against Colorado State. They were playing Colorado State, and the amount of celebrities that were there, I think he's very good, obviously, for the brand of Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, Lil Wayne was at the game,
right?
Lil Wayne is pretending to be a Colorado fan. You know that. I never thought in a million years that rappers would pretend to be Colorado football fans.
Exactly.
It's such a bizarre thing. I never would have thought that about Colorado. I agree with everything you just said. The only point that I'm making is when you talk shit like that and you're just it really looks bad when now you stink. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I agree. Also, I also think that the media has almost completely forgotten that they exist now.
because they're not relevant anymore, and
Right.
everything is moving on to like the college football playoff and
Right.
all the relevant teams. And I don't know how much the conference realignment thing is going to have to is going to change things with Colorado. I mean, I guess it will a little bit with them moving to the Big 12.
Right.
But all there's a lot of stuff going on in college football right now. So it's rivalry week. There's all sorts of games coming up, and we're going to make picks in all of them. So hold on a second. All right, so let's do. You said you're going to take. By the way, I was 1-2 last week in my picks. In my college picks. All right, so you're taking Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State plus 3.5, and I will also be betting Ohio State on the money line. Ohio State is going to win this game. Ohio State, I have not thought was a good team the whole year. Don't think that it matters. Think Michigan's got a lot going on. Didn't play well against Maryland. Beat Ohio State last year, which I think matters in rivalry games, who won the game last year. I think Ohio State goes in and wins this game.
I think I'm with you with the spread. I am not willing to take Ohio State to win it outright. The 3.5 makes me nervous. I think they could definitely keep this close. Overall, right now, I think Michigan's been a better team. Although, I mean, I don't know how much I can really say about Michigan. Other than Penn State, their schedule hasn't been very good.
No, I also think J.J. McCarthy got hurt decent in the Penn State game, and he didn't look very good against Maryland. I think he might also be a little hurt.
Yeah, he might be. I don't know. I really do like Michigan's defense, though. Michigan does have a very good defense.
Yeah, Ohio State does as well, though.
Yeah,
and Ohio State, but Michigan also has not played anybody even in the same realm as Marvin Harrison Jr. though as well. So
that part is also true. I mean, you're right. They weren't good against Maryland. They beat Penn State on the road though, so that's still a pretty good win. But for the most part, before that, their schedule hasn't been very strong. Overall, I think Michigan's a better team right now, but I think this game could go either way. I'm just going to I would take Ohio State to cover, but Michigan to win outright. All right, so hold on a second. Okay, Arizona at Arizona State.
Yeah, I took the over under on this just because last week ASU we were down 42-0 at the half, and Arizona put up I think 35 at halftime last game. They played Utah. They put up 40 something in the game overall. So the over under is 50. I think Arizona could score about 40 of them. So I take the over in this one, and it's gonna be a nice day. Those games normally go over. And if I had to pick, I would probably, unfortunately, take Arizona in the 10.5.
I know you hate Arizona, but I mean, Arizona is actually good this year.
Well,
it's one of their better seasons.
This is a better season they've had in a long time, yeah.
And you're also taking Wazoo at Washington.
Yeah, first of all, 16.5, too much for a rivalry game. I don't care who's playing. And Wazoo is pretty good. They beat Colorado, like we talked about, 54-10. They've had some decent wins. They had some bad losses, but they're not 17 points less. To say that, like Arizona State, as bad as Arizona State have been, Washington beat them by 6 at Washington. So yeah. I don't know if they're going to cover an Apple Cup game. 16.
I don't think Washington also almost lost to Stanford. Washington's defense sucks, and they give up big leads very often.
Yeah, they could have lost last week. Yeah, they 16.5 is so many points for a rivalry game.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you on this. I would probably go with Washington State also. All right, so I'm gonna make my picks now. All right, so whatever it is. Okay, the Iron Bowl, Auburn is getting 14.5. I love Auburn this game. It's a rivalry game. It's the Iron Bowl at Auburn. Right. Auburn tends to play very well tends to play Alabama tough in the Iron Bowl. I mean, Auburn's not very good this year, but I don't like Alabama sometimes has these close calls. I mean, this is one of the weaker Alabama teams we've seen and within the past few years. And even when they were better, even when the distance between Alabama and Auburn was bigger, Auburn was able to keep it close. So I don't know. I think 14.5 points is too much for a team on the road in a rivalry game. I really see Auburn being able to cover this.
I agree. There's the difference between college football and the NFL also is I agree with the 14.5. The teams play 2 seasons basically, which is they play an 11-game season and then they play their rivalry game, which is like in a season of itself. It doesn't matter if one team is 0-11 and the other is 11-0. Teams are up for this game, for these games. Like I always think big spreads are a lot for these. Teams really get up for the rivalry games.
Yeah. All right. So Wisconsin at Minnesota, 42.5. Minnesota's giving 2.5 Minnesota minus 2.5. I'm going with the under 42.5. I think this game is going to be a very typical Big Ten West sort of
I agree.
matchup.
I would take Wisconsin too.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not going to touch it. Do you know what the spread is in the Iowa-Nebraska game?
Yeah, I think you mean the over-under?
I mean, sorry, not the spread, the over-under.
I think it was 29, 26 or 29.
26.5.
26.5, yeah. It's the lowest ever.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I'm going to bet it just on principle.
Are you gonna bet the under?
No, the over.
The over?
Just on principle. I bet the over when Iowa played Northwestern. It was the lowest ever at the time. It was 32, and it didn't even get anywhere close.
I think I would maybe bet the over, but I would if anything, I would bet Iowa. Nebraska's giving 2.5.
Oh, I agree. I would bet Iowa, but
Iowa's a sneaky good team.
They are, and but I would just the thought of having to root for the under 32 is just a horrible thought.
In this case, 26
or 26, yeah, is just a horrible thought.
Yeah, every score, every time somebody goes on a big run, you're just dreading.
I mean, if there are say there was like a team scored and then like a fumble happened and another team scored, you'd be halfway there already.
Yeah, it's just a disaster. Yeah. And the other is Texas A&M at LSU minus 11.5. I like LSU minus 11.5. Texas A&M, they're going through a lot right now with Jimbo Fisher getting fired and all that. I just see LSU being able to. Not to mention Texas A&M beat them last year, so I like LSU to cover this.
Yeah, I agree. I like LSU.
And Jimbo Fisher you know how much money he's getting paid? Like an insane amount of money to not work. I saw something like he was getting paid like $26,000 a day.
Mm-hmm. 75 million over.
Yes. So 7.2 million annually through 2031.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, being a bad college football coach is like the best deal you can get.
Correct.
Like that's got to be amazing. Like my dream is to like be a college football coach and utterly fail because I'll get paid an insane amount of money to do nothing.
Yeah, it's insane. He's got a Bobby Bonilla deal. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Bobby is like the Bob. Yeah, he's like the Bobby Bonilla of college football coaches. Although Texas A&M has gotten a lot better since last year, to his credit.
Yeah, the thing that I don't understand is they're like, oh, we're stuck in neutral, but a lot of teams would take that. A lot of schools would take that.
Yeah,
neutral.
No, that's absolutely true.
Yeah,
but I mean, the thing is, you didn't pay as much money to pay Jimbo Fisher the money you paid him to be.
No matter what, they're going to pay him. So
that's true. They have to pay him a lot. They either have to pay him money to be stuck in neutral or to not coach.
Right, and then you're going to have to pay another coach
to likely be stuck in neutral.
Right,
but it depends on how much you pay that other coach and who it is, and I don't know. Yeah, Texas A&M, what a disaster that program is.
If you brought in another coach, say you said, okay, we're paying Jimbo Fisher, so we're going to bring in another coach. He has to win 10 games a year because you're winning 9 games a year. And then even if you pay him less, you're still paying Jimbo Fisher. So it doesn't make any sense at all. Like
Yeah, but they likely think that they can get a head coach better than. I mean, Texas A&M this year is 7-4,
Yeah.
so likely they'll go. Given that they're heavy underdogs against LSU in the regular season, they'll likely go 7-5.
Yeah.
It's not that hard for them to be able to get a head coach to do better than that, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought Jimbo Fisher was that good of a head coach anyway. He
Yeah.
won with Jameis Winston, and that's basically what put him over the top.
And this game actually will always remind me of the 72-70 game they played the day after Thanksgiving on 2018 when they played that game that was like 7 overtimes, and that was
Yes.
we actually watched that at Brady's in Ramsey, New Jersey, where I was banned from at the end of the night that night. That'll always remind me of that.
Yes, the Brady's Bowl. Yeah, that 70. Yeah, that was a crazy game. That LSU Texas A&M game. And not much change with the rankings this week. Although the thing is, sometimes I'm under the impression that the committee makes a change because they want to feel like they're doing something they want to feel useful. So they're like, oh, well, we'll just change this one little thing. Sometimes I think it's okay to just cancel the whole thing and just be like, we're not changing anything. Like this week, the only thing they changed was Washington and Florida State.
Right. Which they only do. Like I was listening to people talk about this on other shows, which they're right about. If they keep Florida State out and they're undefeated, then that would be ridiculous because you would basically just be saying it doesn't matter what happened in games. It matters who's healthiest.
Right. The reason they did it is because they're most likely – the reason they dropped them is because Florida State, as of now, is most likely not a top 4 team without Jordan Travis. Now, realistically speaking, I think there's a difference between the rankings that you have to actually put out and who the actual best teams are. I don't think that Washington is a top 4 team at all in terms of their – you agree with me?
Yeah, they're not a top 4 team.
They're not a top 4 team, but because they're undefeated and they fit all the criteria, the committee kind of has to make them a top 4 team or a potential top 4 team. The thing with Florida State is that they still control their own destiny, even though right now they're not a top 5 team. Michigan or Ohio State is going to lose. So one of those teams is going to lose. So they're guaranteed to be a top 4 team if they were to win.
Right.
I mean, they certainly. So I don't think these rankings mean that much in terms of the playoffs. Although rankings do matter, but not so much in this particular context. I mean, they matter more for they matter a lot when it comes to like coaches getting hired and fired based on how many times you're in the top 25 and things like that. All of that matters, but in this particular context, in terms of the playoff, it's probably not going to matter that much. But they're going to be in for a real shit show I think Alabama, if Georgia loses I mean, look, I think the loser of Ohio State and Michigan is most likely out. But I mean, given the fact that Jordan Travis is now hurt, you don't know what might. We don't know what might happen. I mean, they might end up losing to Louisville. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know how good of a team they are without Jordan Travis. I can't remember any other time where the committee has been in this type of position where this late in the season, a quarterback of a top 4 team gets injured.
Yeah, I don't know either, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. They got Florida this weekend, so we'll see how they do.
You never know. I mean, Florida is a disaster. Graham Mertz stinks. It should be an easy win. It should be a win for. I mean, they're favored by 6.5 without Jordan Travis. So I don't know what the spread would have been if Jordan Travis was still healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
My biggest fear is Florida State wins and they're just not good enough to be in the top 4 without Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a very strong possibility.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, all right. So I do want to talk a little bit about. Hold on a second. Where is this? Where is this? About Charissa. There it is. Okay. Charissa Thompson admitted to being a fake news reporter. She admitted to making, on Part of My Take, admitted to making up reports on the sidelines. I don't know. I thought this was kind of funny, but also really stupid on her part. And like, my thoughts are more along the lines of like, why would you admit it? For her sake, it's dumb to admit it. But also, it's like, if you're a sideline reporter, just say what's true. You don't have to make it up.
Well, what she actually said was that if she knows the coach and she didn't get a chance to speak to him, that she'll like make up a cliche, like we need to run the ball more or something like that. Yeah, I could see sort of both sides of it. I could see like people saying that her was taken out of context, that it's not that big a deal. But I could also see like people who have climbed like a long way to get there feeling like their profession is being like boiled down to like, oh, you're just making stuff up because she said something. But I do think it got to a point of like overreaction where people were just like,
I think so too. I mean, I don't believe anybody actually cares about Charissa Thompson making up these reports, but it is unprofessional to just claim that a coach said things that they didn't actually say. I mean, just
of course.
Don't lie. I mean, don't lie about it when your only job is to just be a sideline reporter. You're on screen for like 30 seconds. You could just go, you can just kind of think of a couple of words to say and then just go back to whoever is on the screen. I mean, you just don't need to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I do think I don't know if it's like that big a deal. I don't know how many people. It's also crazy to me. Like one thing that she said in that interview was like they do a ton of prep and calls and interviews during the week, and then they're on screen for like 20 seconds, literally.
Yeah.
Like, that's the craziest part. But yeah, I thought it got to, it was, I agree that she shouldn't have said it and stuff like that. But I did think it got to that point, which everything gets to in the internet, where it's like, oh, this is something that shouldn't have happened. And then it just goes way over the top overreaction.
No, that part is definitely true. I guess that's
people
what
get
makes
so serious about like you only have like really like an hour after something happens to get off jokes, and then the people who are serious about everything come through, and that's what happened.
But that's part of what makes the internet kind of entertaining, is all the crazy people.
Yeah,
I guess like if everybody on Twitter was just a normal, well-adjusted, sane person, it wouldn't be so much fun.
And I don't know like how much how much these reports like matter. Like if she says like, oh, run the ball, if she says like, oh, run the ball, like, and stuff like that, I don't really think it'll get noticed that much. Like it's not like she's reporting like that President Kennedy's riding with the convertible top up or something, and then it's easily noticeable that that's not what happened. But I mean that like I don't know how big a deal it is that she said like that a coach said something that they didn't entirely say.
Well, I think it's a big deal to people in the journalism profession.
Yeah.
Who really care about the integrity of the profession and try to do their jobs the best they can. And she's still going on talking about how she made things up. I get that reaction completely.
Yeah.
More than anything, I just like, people kind of, I think some of the memes about it were very funny.
Right, exactly. And then so that was like the funny part. And then you get like the people who are like, oh, this is like ruined the entire integrity of all journalism. It's like, all right, take it easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be fair to look at all sideline reporters as making things up just because Charissa Thompson did it. And it doesn't even sound like she did it every game. Like
she didn't do it every time. Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's fair either. Every individual is different and they all do their jobs differently. I mean, I don't know. To me, I've always thought I always felt kind of bad for reporters who had to like go to like press conferences and ask coaches questions. That seems so miserable. And it just, I don't know. It just seems so difficult to like be in this mosh pit of people and be like, coach, how did it feel?
Especially like, yeah, I think the same thing, like during games, like the guys in the middle of a game, and like they're trying to ask him questions. Like I always thought that was like.
But at the same time, I don't like it when you see coaches like Bill, like not so much like Bill Belichick. I don't think is that bad with it, but like Greg Popovich is rude to reporters, and like he has no respect. He's rude to reporters like 100% of the time. It's like, I don't know. They're just trying to do their jobs. When Marshawn Lynch refused to talk to reporters, I thought it was an asshole move. Like, just the reporters are trying to do their jobs, and you're paid a lot of money, and you're contractually obligated to answer their questions. Right. It's not. It takes a small amount of time. Just fucking do it. Like, don't be a jerk about it.
And at the end of the day, no matter what, it's entertainment meant to be on television. So if it wasn't on television. Right. So if it wasn't on television, you wouldn't be making anywhere near the money that you have. So,
I mean, sports, it's not like scripted entertainment, but it's similar to like, it's a little bit like, it's kind of like reality TV in a sense. Sports. It's like,
I agree. Yeah.
Like, there's, I mean, none of it is scripted, although a lot of it looks like it could be scripted. I mean, based on everything that happens, like, but it's really just a form of entertainment. But yeah, more than this week though, I'm very much looking forward to all the college football. Although, if anything, I'm really just sad that the season's almost over.
I know it came up really quick. It came up. This season went by in a blink of an eye. It
always does. So that part kind of sucks. All right. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week. If you're betting, good luck on all your bets or whatever you're doing.